Hey folks, how we doing? Mr. Zagari here, Zags APUSH with our last content-based video for the year. And this is the Reagan Revolution and the takeaway of that. So this is going to go through quickly the Ronald Reagan presidency, 1981 through 1989. And then what we are going to look at is I'm going to post the PBS 1-minute clips, Presidents in 60 Seconds, on George H.W. Bush and Bill Clinton. So we're going to get through the 90s. Okay, so let's get started. So the Reagan Revolution, the takeaway, big pictures about Reagan. This is in my lifetime. My first presidential memory is of Ronald Reagan and the Challenger speech. So let's get started. I'm in my kitchen today. New little backdrop. I'm not in some random closet in the high school. So let's get started. All right, so what we see here is that it takes about 15 years roughly for the Republican Party to get it right finally with their conservative agenda and the rise of conservatism till they finally get somebody in there that can really look to bring their ideology to fruition in Ronald Reagan. So what we're seeing here is the rise of conservatism happened, and we already did this in our DBQ, the 2015 DBQ. So if you want to go back on that, and if you're doing that work, you could do that diagnostic, and I can have a writing conference with you for that. But the rise of conservatism, and these are just some, I gave you four main causes of the rise of conservatism that really happened with the start with Mr. Barry Goldwater in the 64 election. And again, it takes really to 1980 to get to Ronald Reagan, where they, as we saw in that one video clip, that they got it right from CNN. You see the religious revival. We see the evangelical movement starting to happen. We see televangelists starting to happen. And this and this push for the Christian right. And coupled with that, is going to be the return to family morals. So a lot of this return to the 1950s notion that Nixon is going to preach that the good old times of him and Ike, of returning to those family morals and returning to those Christian values that they're going to see of the time period. So that's what, part of that conservative agenda. And then you also have the deregulation of business and trying to combat the stagflation of the 1970s. So you're looking at to try to deregulate the economy, looking to let businesses do their work and not have the government on the backs of the business. Oh, wait a second. So you want to reduce the role of government. Sounds like we're going to have a power struggle here, folks. I don't know, a little foreshadowing there of the role of government again. And then also taking a hard stance of anti-communism. But I thought we were already anti-communism with containment. But then we go into that détente period. So we're going to be anti-communist again. So let's see where we're going with this. So religious revival, return to family morals. Those are really social agendas here of the rise of conservatism. We're going to see the deregulation of business. We're going to see that as being that major economic condition. And then at anti-communism, we're going to see a major political push, and then all revolving around a lesser role of the federal government, which is also political. So we're seeing here some social, political, and economic. There we go, connecting to DBQs always for that May 19th exam. All right, let's continue. All right, so one big push with Reagan, who wins in a landslide election against James, call me Jimmy Carter, the peanut farmer from Georgia. He's going to initiate this ideology of Reaganomics, okay? He's going to connect with this supply side economics, which is going to, the big thing here is going to be tax cuts and reduce government spending. And this would increase investments by the private sector, which would lead to increased production, jobs, and prosperity. Contrasting Democratic vision of Keynesian economics, which involved government spending during the economic downturns as seen during the FDR and the New Deal. Again, we read that article today during our Socratic on the legacy of Reagan, and they were making those strong connections to Franklin Roosevelt and really, again, talking about the role of the federal government. So it seems here Reaganomics wants to cut taxes from the top. It'll trickle down to the bottom. And then we're going to have an easing of regulations towards businesses and let the private sector work its way out. Whereas on the other side of that coin, that FDR Keynesian model, that is not socialism, okay, which some would argue, but it's more of that being an umpire, so to speak, when the federal government should step in. But it is a drastic change from what the norm was prior to the New Deal. Okay, so what is going to be with the Reaganomics here? One big thing that's going to kind of unravel this and make this, there is going to be massive economic growth in the 1980s, but it's going to be off of a shaky foundation. And that's going to be as a result of deficit spending, because yes, he's going to institute tax cuts, but we are going to increase dramatically military spending. All right. So as if we're not taking in money, but we're spending money, okay, cha-ching, the credit card is going up. And we're increasing this money on the military spending, which in turn, though, is also leading to an end of the Cold War, because we are helping bankrupt the Soviet Union with them trying to keep up in an arms race, so to speak, with the United States, but they're also fighting a war in Afghanistan. So we're starting to see the Iron Curtain crumble, as well as the Berlin Wall is going to crumble. And then it's all going to be read my lips, no new taxes. But that's going to become with H.W. Bush, which you'll see in that video that's linked to the bottom here. But we are starting to see the end to the Cold War, and Reagan as the great communicator, which we will see with Mikhail Gorbachev. So let's see here the big finish. So economics. Reaganomics seems to be the litmus test for Republicans to base their economic philosophy on. Tax cuts by Republicans. That seems to be becoming the norm. Tax cuts seem to be the norm now for the Republicans as part of their economic philosophy. And Reagan is the barometer. That's what Republicans want to be measured on during the post-Reagan era. Like, Reagan is the foundation of the Republican Party. We're also still seeing debates on social issues. We're seeing debates on religion and the role of religion in the public sector, the role of religion in schools, the role of religion just in our society, as well as the hot topic of abortion. And while Roe v. Wade still stands, and it's a very hot topic case, we're seeing that debated between Democrats and Republicans. But the biggest debate of all, and the biggest debate of the Reagan legacy, is really the debate over the power of the federal government. And it's not just the Reagan debate. It's the FDR debate. It's the Andrew Jackson debate. It's the Hamilton and Jefferson debate. And Hamilton's hidden behind this picture here, but that's Hamilton there. Okay, it's the same debate that we will always have. It's that question over who should have the power. Does the power belong in the hands of the states? Does the power belong in the hands of the federal government? And if so, how much power? What is the role of government? How much power should the government have? Reagan, was a big advocate for that government is not the solution to the problem, but it is the problem, that the government needs to have a more hands-off approach, that the government needs to shrink. Well, again, we've seen that come time to time where he calls out Nixon for acting more like a Democrat and expanding federal power. And that's what, when he was, saving the political party from Watergate, during his campaign, where Nixon, like, that's what happens when you act like a Democrat. You get issues like Watergate, where Nixon is expanding the role of the federal government with creating the EPA and other such institutions. But this debate will never end. Okay, this is a fundamental debate in our nation's history, and it will always be there. And Reagan is the basis of this modern debate that we're having into the 21st century between Republicans and Democrats, and it's the most fundamental difference between the two modern day political parties. So again, Bush, Clinton, linked to the bottom. Okay, our unit test on this is on Friday, multiple choice, and then we're getting ready for Wednesday the 19th. We're striving for the 5. You know where to catch me. If you need some extra help, we'll catch you later. Zags APUSH.